Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This Maxillaria arachnitiflora, silly name. Still, I think the arachne bit on the front just implies its spidery nature, which is okay. But there's quite a few buds opening now and more to come. I've got an Orchid Society meeting this Saturday. I might actually take this one along. It might be going on an outing. I'll have a think about it. But what I wanted to talk about today is watering patterns and the possibility of getting stuck in a rut. You know, just doing things because it's the day of the week or whatever, you know. Now I came out here, I got up this morning and it was a lovely bright day. I had all the hallmarks of getting some sunshine in here. And then by the time I'd had a bite to eat and had a play on the computer, it had gone back to its normal dull and cold. Now, dull and cold for most of the orchids in here means I'm not going to grow much today. Yeah, that's just the way it is. I mean, that's my temperature out here at the moment, 15.5. Not good. This is quite a low daytime temperature. And low light levels as well. So there's not a lot of growing going on today. But today should have been watering the mounts day. And this is probably the last time this will happen now for several reasons. But I decided in the end, if it's going to be cold and dull, they can go another day. And through the winter time, my mounts, which have got, very limited resources, tiny little bit of moss. What's that spike doing? Ooh, pushing on. They're not growing much. They're not doing much. So if they stay dry for an extra day, it's not the end of the world for most of them. There are a few exceptions which I'm pushing my luck with. Oh, let go. And that is an exception. That's a Tolumnia. Now, in their natural environment, they get morning dew virtually every day. So they get watered virtually every day. But then they don't get temperatures of 15 degrees where they live. It's more like 25 degrees. And they need that water each day. They also need to dry out afterwards. If you keep these things wet, the roots rot. So today, I'm pushing my luck with my Tolumnias. What else goes into the decision? It's not just the low light and the low temperatures, it's also the day length. Now we're heading back up towards 10 hours of daylight now. Although that's not the magic 11 that you've often heard me talking about, it's still 10 and not 8. Yeah? So things are starting to move. They're starting to show signs of new growths. And growths that are already there are showing signs of speeding up a bit. But in a slow, steady manner. Nothing's going to kick off. Now, if the weather changes and we get the really cold weather returns, that is often accompanied by clear blue skies. Now, if that happens, the length of the day and the daytime temperatures in here and the light levels in here are going to really go up. I'll be getting up 23, 24 degrees if the sun comes round, even though it's still relatively weak winter sun. So the daytime temperature in here would start to get high. And if I had 2 consecutive days like that, I would water on both of those days. I'm only talking mounts here. I'm not talking pots and stuff like that. That's a whole different ball game. This is mounts with limited resources to hold moisture. Yeah, so if you take this one, I mean, this was watered 2 days ago. It's still slightly moist. But then if I sneak round the back, if I can remember which one it is, I think it's this one. This is a sort of dendrobium that's semi-resting. Yeah, I think if it was resting, its rest is over. It's pushing new growths. In many places there I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new growths. Now they're only tiny, but they're there. They'll stall if they get kept dry. Yeah? So this one again, I'm pushing it, leaving it a third day. But with the low temperatures, it'll be okay. Trust me, it'll be okay. If I thought I was going to kill something by not watering, it would get watered even if I was ill. So yeah, so that's the decision today. I'm not going to water my mounts today. I'm going to wait until tomorrow, and irrespective of the weather tomorrow, they will be watered. But I've allowed them to go a third day. I mean, if you take the mounted Phalaenopsis, I mean, you know, that one on the end there has no moss. It's just bare rooted. It's a Phalaenopsis. It doesn't matter. It'll rehydrate fine when I water it. At this time of year, at these temperatures, quite honestly, these temperatures are too low for Phalaenopsis. They should be up 17, 18 really, as a minimum. So, you know, they're not going to be growing much, are they? They're too cool. And this flipping monstrosity here, thank you, Archie. I mean, that's not supposed to go down below 18 as well. And bearing in mind that's a sort of back bulb division, that's not going to do much for a month or so, if then. So yeah, that's my decision today, no watering, based on what I've just said, in my environment. Don't forget it's relatively moist in here, humidity's reasonably high, you know, so they'll do another day. And this is probably the very last time that I'll allow them to go 3 days. I'll then be switching to a 2-day cycle, unless we get that bright sunshine and the daytime temperatures climb, in which case we get back to daily. So for the next month, around a month, maybe 6 weeks, I've got that decision to make each day. Yeah, based on what I did the day before. If I watered the day before, should I water again today based on the higher temperatures, brighter light and longer days? Or if it's dull and cold like it is now, they can go 2 days. Come the summer, it's every day. No question. It's not open to debate. It will just be every day. They'll all be in active growth. They'll need that moisture. And things like the Tolumnias still need to dry out. But it's not quite so essential. With the air movement and the bare roots that I've got on most of my Tolumnias, if a part of the moss stayed a bit damp, they'll survive. They'll be okay. So that's my decision today. Now I've got nothing to do. I have to go and play on the computer or something. I'm sure there's some notes need updating. I'll find something to do. Okay, thanks for dropping by. And keep your eye on your watering. As I said, don't just do it because it's Wednesday. You know, might not need it. When I come round to do my pots, they're on the ones that should not dry out, like Masdevallias, Restrepias, at the moment they're on about a 5, maybe 6 day cycle. So the calendar dictates when I have a look at them, but it doesn't dictate that they're going to get watered. It just dictates I need to check them. So on the 5th day, I'll look. If they're still relatively damp because we've had cold, dull days, then they'll go to the 6th day, or maybe even the 7th. And things like my Cattleyas and some of the things like that, they're on a 8, 9, even 10 day cycle through the winter. They only get watered when they are totally dry. And I check that. I really make sure that they have dried right out. And then, as always, they get a good soak. Then they're allowed to dry again. That's how I work. But each plant has to be looked at individually. You can't just lump them all together. You know, they've all got slightly different needs. Some have got totally different needs. That zygote's still hanging on there, isn't it? See, now that's another one. That's in that horrible coconut stuff that's very difficult to judge, especially when you've got a large, heavy plant sat on the top. Is that dry or is it not? How do I tell right down in the pot when it's not a clear pot? But I know this stuff holds a lot of water. Yeah? Now, if this had been looked after really well, these older pseudobulbs, especially that one that's still got leaves on, still in full leaf, that should not be shriveled up like that. So at some point, this has been neglected. Nonetheless, it's got good roots. So hopefully that one can hang in there long enough for me to enjoy those blooms, and then as soon as they're off, Boy, are you coming out of that pot. I still haven't totally decided what to put it in, but it's coming out of that stuff. It breaks down so fast, that coconutty type stuff. And you end up with almost dirt in the bottom of the pot where it breaks down into really fine, powdery stuff, which when wet just clags, just cogs up the roots. Not ideal. If you're prepared to repot frequently, and go very, very careful with your watering, it may be marvellous. But for me, the way I work, I don't like it. Oh, thank you, Oliver. Apparently we have a positive ID for my no ID Nobly Hybrid. So I have to stop calling it now. Apparently it is Spring Dream Apollon. The trouble is there are many Nobly Hybrids that are almost white with yellowy green centres, and they do have different names. So I'll just put it down as a possible, but Oliver was certain because he says he's got the same one. A good way to test is that where are they? There they are. I got two little kikis thrown in with my pots from Rachel, and that's what those are, and that is a positive ID. Those two kikis are a long way off blooming yet, probably. I might get a couple of blooms next spring. But yeah, that is Spring Dream Apollon, positive ID. So at some point in the future, a year or two away, those will be in bloom at the same time as that one. And I can put them next to each other and compare size, petal and sepal shapes, lip shape, that funny little dangly bit in the middle which varies between different hybrids, cane size, cane shape, roughly number of leaves, all those things. And if they all match up reasonably well, then maybe I'll stick a tag on that one. I mean, quite honestly, with Nobly Hybrids, whether they've got a name or not, I'm not that fussed. I just enjoy them. I mean, they do that sort of thing and that sort of thing, And what I'm really looking forward to is that one up there. That's the yellow one. That's Prima Donna. That was my star performer Nobly Hybrid last year. That was in bloom for over 6 months. That's not bad value for money. You and your Phalaenopsis. I can do it with Dendrobiums. Well, I can with that one anyway. This Monilliform looks like it's just going to go, but they've been out a while, and the other little couple of buds are just opening now, so that perpetuates its time. Okay, that'll do for now, but take care with your watering. The worst times for getting watering wrong are autumn, when the day lengths start to shorten, and the day temperatures go down, the nights lengthen, all that sort of stuff. Your plants naturally start to slow up, and so should you. And then again in the spring. It's a very, very dodgy time and an easy time to get things wrong. Look at the plants. Are they starting to throw out new growths? Are there quite a few of them? Because if there are, they need some water. Otherwise those new growths will deplete the existing plant, because that's the only energy they're going to get. They're going to take it from the older part of the plant. Now, sometimes the older part of the plant is so beefed up and butch that they can take it. And other times, not so much. You weaken the older part of the plant, you don't give your new growths the best start in life, and you'll just end up with weaker canes or pseudobulbs. So watch your plants. Let them tell you what they're up to. And then you get other types of plants that they only have a winter because you live in a place where there is one. Where they come from, they don't really get a winter. They get seasonal changes with the amount of water around, the rainfall and patterns like that. But they don't get a winter in the truest sense. So, a lot of the Oncidiums, they're continuous growers. They slow down in my winter, but in where they come from, not so much. So watch your plants. Don't be tempted to overwater because there are signs of life. Build things up gently, slowly. If you water every week, bring it back to 6 days perhaps if you've had better weather, maybe even 5. But watch your weather, watch your temperatures, watch your plants. This is a very dodgy time. It's a good time of year to start rotting roots by just keeping things too wet when it's just not warm enough and they're not growing well enough. So take care. I hope that was informative, interesting, and all that sort of stuff. Now I've got to go and find something to do for the rest of the day. You know, I might even go out, but then I'll have to put about 3 more layers on. It's flipping freezing out there today. I'll have a think about it. Thanks for dropping by. See you next time.